turn this on so we can,
They're happy.
we don't miss
They're
anything.
gonna do the same thing.
You don't want to miss anything.
Oh, it was awful. I bet he spent 15. That didn't even include the liens. I know. Well, that's what you get.
Oh, they're just adorable little bunnies. I like them. Cute. Easter's one of my favorite.
Yeah, you do.
Like Thanksgiving's family and just,
She's arranging them. Okay, I'm going to arrange them. Does the bunny lay the egg underneath, or does he lay the egg next door?
they can share their,
So you might get some. I think this stuff.
good afternoon.
Non-documents.
Don't worry about it. Do you need, anything else? Kathy? Okay. I got that too.
Second, and then we can discuss.
Yeah. Right. Yep. That's real. Then when you're done.
Do more of
I
that.
know. It is.
2 p.m., March 8th, 2018, and I call the Code Enforcement meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Archer?
Here.
Mr. Weeks?
Here.
Ms. Dabbs?
Here.
Ms. Wade?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Ms. Norfleet?
Here.
That completes your roll call.
Okay. I'd like to ask Mr. Trask if he'd give the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
Heavenly Father, send down your blessing on this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board. Give the board members a clear sense of duty and lead them to a faithful discharge of the same. Direct them in their deliberations at this meeting so that all things may be done to the glory of thy name and the welfare of the people of Tarpon Springs. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm now going to read the procedures of the Code Enforcement Board. It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal the final administrative order of this board to the Circuit Court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statutes 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of the board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand up and be sworn in by the secretary of the board. So if there's anyone here that's going to be speaking, okay, please stand and raise your right hand.
Do you swear to sorry, there's someone coming? Sorry. You raise your right hand if you're going to give testimony. Thank you. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give us the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You can be seated.
Okay, then we ask everyone to turn off their cell phones to silence. Okay, we're ready with new business. Case number 17-800000629. This is Mainsail Drive, GGR Parkside LLP in violation of the city code. I don't need to say that. 113.
It's all right, you can do that.
Okay. City Code 133.02, applicability and maintain. Okay, are you ready? Is anyone here for Mainsail Drive? Okay.
Ready?
Are you ready? Oh, Shannon?
This is case 17-800000629 Mainsail Drive. I am Shannon Brewer, currently employed by the City of Tarpon Springs. I'm an ISA certified arborist, license number FL-9221-A. I'm also an FNGLS certified horticultural professional, license number H978402. All the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what's being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and the tax collector databases. All NOVs and NOHs are sent certified return receipt in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence. After Hurricane Irma, it was observed by homeowners of...
Did you want to, hold on a second?
Oh.
So. since
Yes,
there's
Madam
no-
Clerk, would you please receive this
Yes, sir.
documents into evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Shannon.
After Hurricane Irma, it was observed by the homeowners of 1071 Mainsail that several trees were pushed towards the homes, which were 1063, 1071, and 1079 Mainsail. I inspected right after the storm. The city waived permits and had a grace period to allow property owners to have a chance to self-help. The owners of this property did not take that opportunity. The next inspection was October 20th, 2017. The Norfolk Island pines, which are on the city's Tarpon's exotic and invasive list, are located behind 1071. Were observed to have soil weakness and were still in a very wet area. The base of the trunk has a large bend, which could be a weak point for a very large canopy. The courtesy letter was sent out 10/20/2017. Because the homes are located in West Wind's community, I also sent a letter to the HOA in hopes that they would be able to resolve the issue. Unfortunately, they were not associated with the owners, but they did give me a quick claim and returned all of their documents to the office. Reinspection was conducted 12/18/2017. It was observed the trees were still on the property and the Norfolk pines, which were leaning more towards the home now, and the homeowners at 1079 removed a large portion of the tree that fell onto their property. Notice of violation was sent 12/18/17. Reinspection was on 2/02/18. Again, there was no change. On 2/13/18, the NOH was mailed certified in first class. On February 24th, the sign posted and affidavit of posting was signed. The final inspection was March 7th. The pines are still on property and have started to correct themselves with the direction of the sun. The groundwater is gone, but the property is still out of compliance. And there's been no contact with the homeowner or the property owner. That's it. That concludes my evidence.
Checking out the,
Can we get an address confirmation?
It was, I believe, 45 Lemon Street. It was on Lemon Street. And it was verified with the violator, the owner.
the Mainsail didn't have a number.
It's a conservation area behind these homes off of Mainsail, and the property owner is GGR Parkside LLP. Their address is technically 46 West Lemon Street.
Okay.
Mainsail, yeah.
That whole southeastern side is owned by, the address in the city system is Mainsail. It's a giant parcel, and it surrounds all, most of the houses in Westwood subdivision back up to that giant parcel. Owned by a company.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, does the board have any other questions to ask either Shannon or Officer Gaston?
Yes. Did someone complain about this property in rough shape, or did you just see it?
No, all of the three homeowners, they called me. The ones at 1071 are the ones that I've been the point of contact with.
And we're talking about storm damage, trees broken,
They were
fall
pushed in
down?
the storm. They started to lean. The
Okay.
homeowners noticed that they had gained, she kept telling me there was about 5 feet of difference between the top of the tree before the storm and where it is now.
Are they responsive to you, these people, that they're gonna do something? Have they talked to you, or?
The property owner, which is the GGR Parkside, there has been no communication.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Shannon, do you have anything to summarize?
No, that's it.
Okay. And the public portion of this case is now closed. Are we ready to entertain a motion?
I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, Section 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah,
Go ahead, sir.
how much?
Well, that would be the
That's-
second part of the
that's
motion.
part.
Okay, I'm forgetting that.
All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Stabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Shannon, do you have a recommendation of daily fine or?
Because of the being hazard to the structure, I recommend within 10 days to remove it. After that, $200 a day.
Two.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move the respondent shall have until the 15th day of March to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 133.02, or a fine of $200 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Is there a second?
I second.
I have a question.
Any
That-
discussion?
That's only a week away. Do you think they can get the required permits and get that done in a week?
This does not require a permit. It's actually on the City of Tarpon's invasive and exotic list, so they should have been able to go ahead and do it in the last 4 months.
Okay.
Plus, it's liable to get them moving.
Any other discussion?
Did I understand you to say 10 days?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't, the motion was motion.
Yes. We said 10 days, didn't we?
No, the motion was March 15th. Today is the 8th.
And today is
Oh,
the
wait.
8th.
You want them to alter his motion?
Yes, to what was suggested, the 10 days.
That would be the 18th, but the 19th is Monday.
Would
I
you-
don't mind amending if you want to give them a few more days.
Right,
I
yeah.
don't.
The motion needs to be amended to the recommended 10 days.
Should be the 19th.
For the
Of March.
19th then? Do we have to get a
I am-
second on that?
I'll amend my motion to March 22nd.
Reasonable.
Any other discussion? All right, roll.
Be seconded?
Who was the person that made the second on the motion? Was that you, Mrs. Wade?
I was.
Okay. Mr. Weeks, so is the second, you still good with the second then? Moving the date until the 22nd? I didn't hear you, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay.
Second motion.
Okay.
As amended.
All right, roll call?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Stabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, the next case. 17-800000672 at 1098 South Pinellas Avenue, Juniper Development LLC. Is there anyone here for this property?
Hold on, please. good to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, case 17-800000672, Juniper Development Company. I'm Shannon Brewer, currently employed by the City of Tarpon Springs. I'm an ISA certified arborist, license number FL 9221-A, and an FMGL certified horticulture professional, license number H978402. All photographs and exhibits that were given to
Shannon?
the...
I don't mean to scare you, I'm sorry, but could you just slow it
Slow
down
down,
a little
okay.
bit so we can kind of understand what you're saying? Thank
All
you.
photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator, exact copies of what's being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and the tax collector databases. All NOVs and NOHs are sent certified return receipt, first-class mail. Please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence.
Okay. Bobby, we accept these into all the
Yes, ma'am.
documents into evidence? Thank you.
During Hurricane Irma, it was noticed that the Australian pine trees were leaning over the road more than before the storm. I had marked these trees for FEMA to remove, but since the trees originated from private property, the removal was denied. The City of Tarpon gave the owners of private property a grace period till November to correct the hazard, and the owners of this property did not take corrective measures. November 7th, 2018, an inspection confirmed the pine trees were still over the road. A courtesy letter was sent, and no action was taken to remove the trees. On December 18th, 2017, I re-inspected. I found the bark was starting to crack from the weight of the canopy not being over the trunk. The NOV was sent to the owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County. Letters were returned, and the registered agent had refused a certified NOV. January 25th of 2018, Planning and Zoning Department met with the builders who are in charge of the proposed project and told them that they had to resolve all code enforcement issues before proceeding. Groundwork began to remove Brazilian peppers and debris. This work removing large amounts of soil from one side of the tree, which is opposite of the roadway. February 2nd, I re-inspected the site. The work had stopped. The trees are still on property and over the road, making hazardous conditions for all the motorists. On February 13th, the NOH was mailed certified in first class. February 24th, the sign posted and affidavit of posting was signed. Contact was finally made by the owners to the Code Enforcement Department on March 2nd. The owner was emailed all the documents and they were notified and to change the address with the property appraiser. Finally, March 7th, the final inspection was conducted and all the trees are still on property, leaning more over the road. This concludes my evidence.
All right, does the board have any questions for Shannon, for the city?
Did I understand the property is changing hands currently?
Yes, please.
All right, this property is on the corner of alternate 19 and Mirrors, just south of Ace Hardware. There's a pending sale on it, but that hasn't occurred yet. The Brazilian pepper trees were removed because of my case that I had stemming from a couple of years ago.
Right.
So all that work was done, and then the work with the hurricane, it caused some issues. So there was a parallel case going that was unrelated to Shannon's case for cleaning up the property and debris. That's the work they were doing that Shannon mentioned, but they haven't sold the property yet. They're trying to get all the everything into compliance. So that's the deal with that property right now. Does that explain it? Does that answer your question?
After all of those trees were the result, the bending trees were the result of the storm we had?
No.
Oh, no? Or they were
No,
there?
they had started to grow over the road before the storm, and when I was doing with the FEMA case, that's part of the reason why they denied me. But with the storm, and then again with the work, because they removed, it's really close to the root base where they've done this excavation to remove the pepper trees, and it's pulled soil, it's pulled roots, and that's when they started to go even more. And being next to Alt 19, anybody that's on that road, this is definitely a hazard to them right now.
Okay, any other questions? Shannon, do you have anything else to summarize?
No, that's it.
Okay, so we'll close this portion. And can I entertain a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, Section 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Shannon, do you have a recommendation for time frame or?
I talked to the property owner, and they're going to need 30 days before they can do this. In order to remove a tree like this, they're going to have to actually shut down the road. It's called maintenance of traffic, or MOT. They have to put all of those ducks in a row before that can happen. So they definitely need 30 days. But after that, because of the hazard, I say $200 a day.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Yeah. I move the respondent shall have until April the 9th to bring the property into compliance with the code section 133.02 or suffer a fine of $200 a day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to number 4. Okay,
If we could change the order on you a little
yes,
bit.
yes.
There's some folks that drove, they said 1,600 miles to come here for 802 Francis, which is listed as number 10. Be okay with you if we could hear that case next?
Sure. Okay, we ready?
Hold on a second. We need to get them down here. Who is it? Steve?
I'm sorry?
Who's,
These folks right here, they just stood up.
Okay, can you come down here, please, and sit right here at this microphone?
Okay, this is case number 17-800000788 to be established. 802 Francis Drive, Catherine Bauer,
Estate.
State. Okay,
We need to get their names. So,
could I have would you give your names, please, and your relationship to the property?
Anthony Bauer, I'm the son of the owner. My name is Tanya Meeker. I'm also the daughter of the owner. She is deceased.
I can't hear you.
I'm the daughter of the deceased property owner, Karen Bauer. My name is Tanya Meeker.
Do you have any objections to city documents or photos being,
No,
Put
and
in
I
for-
do have photos that I would like to give you, just so that we're all on the same page, and we do know the property is clean as of today and is in compliance.
Have you seen those photographs?
No, I have not.
Okay. Beth, can you grab those and let the officer see them, and maybe we can do it all at the same time, Madam Chair?
He was
Any objection?
I have no objection to them.
Okay. You want to just receive them all at the same time?
okay, sure. And you have no objection to ours, the city's being put into?
No,
Okay.
we did not realize that the property was in that bad of a state. I knew it had been previously.
Just need to know it's okay to, okay. Madam Clerk, please, receive the documents and things.
Yes, ma'am.
Ready?
I'm ready for you.
Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department, have been the code enforcement officer since 2015. This is case 17-800000788. The property address is 802 Francis Drive in Leisure Lake Mobile Home Park. Its listed property owner is Catherine Bauer, the estate of. Exhibit number 1 are all of my photographs, including my inspections that are going around. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are any administrative docs, including my case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what's being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent certified return receipt as well as first-class mail. Madam Chairman, if you would please accept all these exhibits, which I think you already have, into the record as evidence.
Yes.
My case initially started December 30th of 2017. Got a citizen complaint about a large amount of trash and debris, especially under the carport area of the property. On January 2nd of 2018, we mailed out a notice of violation certified in first class. January 25th of 2018, and conducted a reinspection. Basically, there was no change. At that time, we sent a final notice of violation via first class and certified mail. February 15th of 2018, I conducted another reinspection. There was some cleanup, but it's still not in compliance at that time. There were still clothing, appliances, and some other items being stored under the carport. February 15th, the same day, the notice of hearing was mailed out, first class and certified mail. Posted the property on February 24th. And conducted a final inspection. I actually conducted a couple of them. On the 7th, I spoke to a resident, advised them what needed to come into compliance. Went out again this morning on my way into work, and as their photographs show, the property is in compliance, and I did comply the violations. So what's before the board is strictly the consideration of establishing the property for violations of 8-22, the accumulation of trash, 8-40, which is the duty to maintain private property, and 8-52, which are the nuisance prohibitions of storing, particularly in this case, debris and such on private property. We've had phone calls with the owner, and obviously they came down here. They were a little bit surprised about the degree of which the violations. I explained to them a little bit about my purpose of establishing it, because we've had some other issues with the property, unrelated to them as owners, but with the tenants. So that's all I have at this time.
Board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Do you have any questions for Officer Gasson?
No, sir.
Okay, would you like to present your case?
I just wanted to give the photos so that everyone was aware that we are now aware of what the requirements and expectations are, and we will work hard to maintain that level of property.
Board have any questions for the violator? Officer Gaston, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Would you like to summarize?
I don't have a summary either.
Do you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so the public portion of this case will now be closed, and we'll entertain a motion. Be established, right?
Yes.
That established
Be established.
violation? Established violation.
That's correct.
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law, that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-22, 8-40, and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs were in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Any discussion?
That's it. They'll be done.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yeah.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
What's happening?
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bauer and Ms. Meeker, the Code Enforcement Board has found the property owner to be in violation of those code sections. You're now in compliance. Should the property go into non-compliance again within the next 5-year period of time, you'll be considered a repeat violator. Fines will start immediately upon the inspection when the violation is found. So it's really, really important to make sure that it doesn't happen again within at least the next 5 years. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Safe trip home.
Yeah, we can just,
Off the gas, and where would you like to go to now?
yeah, we're going to change one more.
Okay.
608 North, which is going to be number 5.
5?
We'll go ahead and hear that because I think there is somebody here for that one. Yes. Oh, and he has not been sworn in yet.
This is,
Sir, before you say, will you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, sir? Thank you, sir.
this is case number 17-800000647 at 608 North Avenue. Robert Winwright and Henry Knight. Sir, do you have any objections to the city documents or our photos being set into evidence?
We're working on that. We have, what happened was we inherited a property, and so we mined the property at the same time. But my wife is from one of the oldest.
Okay, but I just said, we just need to know now if the pictures that we have and the documents, is it okay to have the board put them into evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
Or don't you have them?
I'm sorry? You ready?
They both have copies. He has his own
That's his
copy.
copy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So no objection, sir?
No objection.
Okay, thank you.
Then I ask the clerk to please put these in evidence then. Officer Gaston, you ready?
Thank you. This is case number 17-800000647, property address 608 North Avenue. Mr. Robert and Henry Winwright Knight are the property owners listed on record. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearings. Exhibit number 3 are any administrative docs to include a case summary, the property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of my photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what's being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. And all of my notice of violation and notice of hearings were sent via certified mail, return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would please accept all these into the record as evidence.
It was already done, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My initial inspection was October 26th of 2017. While I was conducting inspections in the area, I observed numerous violations at this address. There was a white Honda backed in. It appeared inoperative. It had tires on it. It appears as if it's being not being driven or drivable. The structure in front of the house had no permit obtained for it. It was a combination of storage and a carport. There's a utility trailer parked out front, not in the rear yard or the inside side yard or the driveway. There was tires, trash, and other debris being stored in front of the residence, and the trash cans were being stored in front of the building. On December 19th of 2017, we mailed the notice of violation via first class and certified mail. Conducted a reinspection on February 19th of this year, and at the time, there were no changes. On February 20th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail. On February 24th, I posted the sign with an affidavit of posting. I conducted a final inspection on the 7th, and at that time, there was some changes. The vehicle, the white Honda, was in compliance. It was no longer there. The trailer had been moved into the driveway, so I complied those violations. Basically, and the trash cans were taken care of. Basically, the violations that were still before the board is there's still some debris on the property. It was kind of primarily in the rear, and the carport's still there, and I confirmed with the city that no permit had been pulled for that carport as of yet, which was one of the issues. Since it's already an established structure, it needed to have a building permit pulled for it to be put up. So it either needs to be taken down or a permit needs to be obtained, and neither of those things had occurred as of the 7th. So before the board, what I have is just the trash that's on the property. Primarily out front had been cleaned up, but I talked to Miss Winwright yesterday on the phone and explained to her there's some items in the backyard that need to be cleaned up. You can see them in some of the last photographs. It was like a truck topper and just some other couple of tires and things like that. So there's 822, 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, 8-52, which are the nuisance prohibitions against debris and such. And then 6-1 is where the city of Tarpon Springs has adopted the building code, which is the violation for the carport or the structure that's out front in the photographs. And that's all I have at this time.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Okay. Sir, may I have your name?
My name's Robert Winrick.
Okay. And do you have any questions for Officer Gasson?
Yes.
Just questions at this time.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we're having problems being able to park. Yeah, it's one of the reasons.
But do you have a question for Officer Gasson? You can say your.
It's one of the oldest houses. I mean, one of the oldest families in the neighborhood. The people that live there, which still lives there, is some of the oldest residents of the neighborhood. Some of this stuff occurred before we even moved there.
Is that a question? You're gonna ask a question about that? You can state your summarize in a moment.
What can we do to comply without, being violated and stuff like that? Both of us is on disability, and we're trying to spend most of our money into this, but we need to know exactly what needs to be done. And I'm sure it, send the papers and stuff, but we're trying to comply with it as quickly as we possibly can.
Well, to come into compliance for the last things that you have is basically clean up the backyard, which is just trash cleanup. And then you have two choices for the carport. That's tear it down, completely remove it, dispose of it, or obtain a building permit through developmental services across the hall. Those are really the only two options that are available to that structure.
Okay.
So the other one's just cleaning up.
That's fine. I'm just waiting on the insurance company, which I have the papers here. They're supposed to be from the storm. They're supposed to be rebuilding that. And they have it on my insurance thing here, and they're supposed to be rebuilding that carport, getting the permits and stuff, and it's there in the papers.
What do you have in your hand that you're trying to show?
These are the
That looks like
papers.
our exhibit.
Just the notice, your notice.
These is from the notice that he gave us.
Okay.
This is from the insurance company. They were supposed to obtain the permits and stuff. Right here, they haven't got around to it for the carport.
Do you have something from the insurance company?
Yes.
I haven't seen anything, so if you have something you want to present, we can have Beth grab it up and I can look at it.
That's the debris is from the storm and stuff. And we've been waiting on the insurance company to comply with it. Our insurance company and FEMA, both of them together. And they complied with some of the stuff. We did a little work on the house.
All right, Mr. Winwright, if I take this and we enter it, it becomes ours. You don't get a copy of it back. I have no issue with that there's an insurance issue. and we can talk about that later, but do you want me to enter these as evidence?
Yes, yes, sir.
And you have copies of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I have no objection to being entered.
We're still in cross-examination.
And we're gonna be asking for those permits, the insurance company, of course, to do all that stuff, to rebuild it. I think the house needs an upgrade. It's been built, it was built back in the early '70s, and we've been trying to spend most of our money on rebuilding the house. It came from my wife's mother and father, which my wife's father is deceased now. And they're one of the biggest families, African-American families in the neighborhood. So we've been doing the best we could with my wife and I to establish what they have in the neighborhood of the houses.
So does the board have any questions for?
For him?
Yes.
I'm unclear on how the cement blocks and tires were the result of a storm.
The cement, we're cleaning up. We're just cleaning up stuff. The cement block is from building on the house, trying to help the house. Well, we clean it from cleaning up. All that stuff is pulled from everywhere, and it's like one of the biggest families in the neighborhood. So we was trying to clean up, and we couldn't find anywhere for the tires, and no one to pick the tires up and stuff. So that's why we had got stuck with the tires. But now we found out that you can cut the rubber off and scrap it.
Anyone else on the board have any questions for Mr. Winwright? Officer Gasson, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Any more
Actually, let me ask you one question. I had talked to Ms. Winwright yesterday, and she had talked to me about a time frame. Never did she mention anything about the insurance company. Do you have some sort of a time frame or what your plan is with, especially the structure? I don't think the debris is going to be a big issue, correct?
Well, we had companies come out and look, and they just recently got all the stuff together. They sent it back into the insurance company. So the insurance company's putting all this stuff together. They sent me that one, but now the results of all of that, they're supposed to be sending me back.
But did they give you any sort of a time frame? Or what their intent was? Was their intent to tear it down or permit it?
No, their intent was to rebuild it. Their
Okay.
intent was to, the studs was already existing in the ground. What we did was made it where it was safety wise, and it's actually from an old existing structure that was already in the ground.
So they haven't given you a time frame?
No, they haven't. We're
Okay.
waiting on the time frame for all of the stuff. They supposed to give us a dumpster and all for the debris, but we took it upon ourselves, and some of the debris we took and hauled it away ourselves and paid for it. But we both, like I said, both of us is on disability, so we're waiting on them so we can finish up the job.
I have no other questions, ma'am.
I have a question. He said that the structure was already there and that they straightened it up?
Yeah, it was an existing structure. My father-in-law is 89 years old. We had to have something to provide for him for the sun, keep the sun off of him. He likes to sit up under there in the cool shade. That's all it was, it's just for shade.
Was it permitted when it was put up?
The house was built in the early 70s. And
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
I don't know, because we bought the house from her father. And everything that was there was already there.
Yeah, the house was built in 1973. There were no county permits pulled for it, and I checked with the city, and there was no remodeling or structural permits for that carport. So the answer to your question is no. It was never permitted when it was originally built, and since it was never permitted, I can't tell you when it was originally built, but I can tell you I've worked here for 20 years, and it wasn't there about 10 years ago. So it had been built within the last 10 years.
Not the top wasn't there, but the post was in the ground.
Yeah.
And we had to take that. Some of the old wood is still on the top that was originally on the old top. So what we did was we used new wood to patch up the old spot, and we put the top back on it for the shade for her father.
So if he bought it partly built, is there any grandfathering in?
He owns it. And you could equate it to you buy a car with illegal tinted windows. and you get pulled over, you get the ticket for the tinted windows. It's buyer beware, I guess you could say. I don't know, maybe Mr. Trask can explain that a little better.
The answer is that you can't have something grandfathered in unless it was legal to begin with. So the testimony you've heard so far is that it's not legal to begin with because it was never permitted, therefore it can never obtain grandfather status. So it needs to either come down or a permit needs to be obtained.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Officer Gasson?
Yes. We was trying to get a right of way so we could have a place to park. We had one of the cars, we had to park in the road. One of the cars been hit by another car. Other car, and 7 cars been scratched. And it's a gate that's going down the side of our house.
Okay, but do you have a question for Officer Gasson?
We need a right of way. We're trying to get a right of way from Mr. Gaston for the gate because, like you said, with the grandfather and anything, I tried to buy the property when we moved in so we'd have a place to park, but the lady that I talked to on the phone said we was already.
Sir, you can summarize in a few minutes, but right now, do you have any other questions for Officer Gasson?
Yes. Is there any way we can get a right of way to the side of our house?
That's not part of this case, but you could start with developmental services across the hall, the building department basically, to deal with that. But that's not part of this code case, so I really can't answer that question for you.
But
Sorry.
the housing department that had the gate put up?
That's a whole separate issue that we've discussed already, and it is outside of this case, well outside of this case.
Okay, Officer Gasson, would you like to summarize?
Basically, before the board is the issue with some debris in the backyard and the unpermitted structure that needs to be dealt with in one of those two manners, and that's basically all I have at this point.
Okay, Mr. Winwright, is there anything else you'd like to?
I was just aware of this stuff in the backyard. I complied to everything else, but we weren't aware that we was able to see in the backyard from that point because we covered all the bases, we thought, other than waiting on the permit for the sun thing there, for to block the sun. We wasn't aware of the backyard thing there. We just got that 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Do you live there?
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it, man.
Okay, this public portion of this case is now closed. Like to entertain a motion?
Do we need two motions, one for the complied two portions and one for the still open portions?
No, the only thing before the board is the
22.
6-1, 852, 840, and 822. The 40.00 has been complied, 42.00 has been complied, so they're not before the board for consideration.
Thank you. I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, and 6-1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs. Thank you. Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Officer Gasson, do you have any recommendation for time frame or daily fine?
Well, when I spoke to Ms. Winwright yesterday, in speaking with her, and I don't know if she just didn't communicate with Mr. Winwright, we came up with, I would respectfully ask the board for 21 days with a fine of $50 a day. Now, if I don't know if it's appropriate or not, he hasn't given us a definitive date. The insurance company hasn't provided one. So unless something changes in that, I would still probably say the 21 days. And I can always deal with it if he does come up with a definitive date with the insurance company.
Okay. Mr. Winwright, do you have any input on the compliance date or daily fine that Mr. Gasson mentioned?
No, I'll obtain a zoning permit right now if you let me. I don't have any, he's been working with us very good. I have no complaint. And I just want to get it all done for him, get it,
And then he'll work
certified.
with you through the insurance. Too, he
Thank you.
said. Okay. Okay, we're ready to entertain a motion.
I move the respondent shall have until March 30th, 2018, to bring the property in compliance with code sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, and 6-1, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. You back to 4? Officer
So
Gasson?
I'm just going to summarize for this
I'm
gentleman.
sorry.
Sir, your case has been completed. The Code Enforcement Board has found a violation of those 3 code sections. If you don't understand what you need to do to come into compliance, you can talk to Officer Gasson after the meeting or sometime, tomorrow or the next day. The Code Enforcement Board has given you until March 30th to come into compliance, and should you fail to come into compliance with it by March 30th, a $50 a day fine will begin to run. So it's important to get it done before March 30th.
I just, if I get the zoning permit too early, then see, that's what I gotta talk with the insurance company, because if I go get the zoning permit, and they don't get here in time, then we still would have to hold that. I don't know how long the zoning permit lasts. You know what I mean? If I get the zoning permit now, then I still gotta wait on the insurance company. I don't know how long they're gonna take before they get here.
The board understands all of that.
Okay.
So, but you can work with Officer Gasson.
Okay.
And if need be, this Code Enforcement Board can extend the compliance date
Okay.
if there is something, that is definitive on the date. But work with Mr. Gasson after today's hearing,
Okay.
and so your case is complete then. Thank you.
Okay. No
All
problem.
right.
I thank you, sir.
And we do have a change. Number 12, 720 Locust, Mr. Van Wagner is here.
That's it, sir. Yes.
Okay, this is number 12, item number 18-80000005. At 720 Locust Street, David Van Wagoner. Sir, would you please state your name and
David Van Wagoner.
is this your property?
Yes, it is.
Have you been sworn in?
I need, yeah.
Did you swear in, sir? Did you get sworn in?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes, if you wouldn't mind.
No, I was a witness for myself.
Fine. Do you swear your testimony you're about to give us the whole truth, nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, do you have any objections to the city's documents and photographs
Thorough.
being put into
No
evidence? Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please put those in the evidence when you get them?
Yes, ma'am.
Gasson, you ready?
Yes. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, been so employed since 2016. This is case 18-800000005. The property address is 720 Locust Street. The property owner is David Van Wagner.
Yes.
Correct? Before the board, exhibit number 1 are all of my photographs, including the inspection photographs. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearings. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs, the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector's records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. And all of my photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. And all my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector's database. And all notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent via certified mail and return receipt requested, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, I assume you've already accepted all those into the record as evidence. My case started January 2nd, 2018. It was originally got a complaint about chickens in the yard. Went out and conducted my inspection, saw that there was a large quantity of chairs, tables, appliances, some old equipment, inoperable machinery in old and poor condition, an unused recreational vehicle, and at least one rooster that I saw roaming around. January 2nd, we mailed out the notice of violation via certified mail and first-class mail. On February 19th, I conducted a reinspection. The rooster had been taken care of. He's no longer there. So that violation was taken off the board. The recreational vehicle still is there, and it's covered with mold. There's trees overgrowing it. It actually looked like it's being partially used as storage, because through the front windshield, I could see like a lawn chair in the front windshield. And if it's operable, it would be interesting at best. And at that time, there was still some debris out in front of the house. The trash cans were still out in front. On February 20th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail. On the 24th of February, I posted the property, and the affidavit was signed. And on March 7th, when I conducted the inspection, primarily the front of the house had been cleaned up, but the RV is still there, still covered with mold, as you can see in the pictures, and the chair is still in the front windshield. So basically, at this point in time, what's before the board is a consideration of 8-40, which is the duty to maintain private property, as well as the 852, which are the nuisance prohibition. Underneath the RV, in some of the pictures, it looks like they're using a little bit of storage. There's some debris underneath there, too. So at this point in time, as I stated, the front yard's primarily cleared up, but the only thing before the board is the consideration of 8-52. One thing about 8-52, it defines debris as abandoned, inoperative, or unusable material, equipment, or machinery, or other material, equipment, or machinery which is stored externally. This includes, but is not limited to, discarded household items, inoperative or abandoned machinery, motor vehicles, boats, trailers, or household appliances. It goes on to mention a myriad of other things under the definition of debris, and the RV was classified as such under that. The fact whether or not it has registration is unknown. Apparently, Mr. Van Wagner states that it is registered, but we're not going forward with a violation of 42.00, which is recreational vehicles. This is classifying it as unused machinery being stored on the property. And as you can see by the pictures, mold grows on stationary objects. So that's all I have at this time.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Sir, do you have any questions for Officer Gasson?
Yeah, just a few. On the 5th, I'd sent an email in. Basically, I was asking whether I needed to bring the new tag out for the RV, or I could just send in a copy of it or whatever. And when I got that response, I also, the email, I'd also at that point done quite a bit of come down. My ex-wife lives in the.
Okay, sir, this is just if you have any questions for him, then you can state your summary, you can
Right.
make your
At that
statement in a
time,
few
the
minutes.
response was that you had seen some things being stored in the RV. And I had taken that to mean that that was the only thing left in the violations, because I had come down and cleaned up the rest of the property. So I was kind of surprised when you went out yesterday and there were more things that you were coming up with that needed to be done. That's just my question.
Well, you had emailed me, and you had even made the comment in your email on the 5th that you were going to be down to clean the RV.
Yep. I did not clean it, I admit that.
So there was discussion about the fact that it's unused. You were also mailed a notice of violation, correct? And a notice of hearing?
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, I used to live in the house. I don't live there now. I live up in Hernando County, and I didn't change my address with the county, so it went to my ex-wife who lives in the house now. But she did call me and let me know about it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I really have to say. I was under the impression at that time on the 5th that I was basically in compliance other than getting it tagged, which I have done, and I have sent in the copies of the registration and the new tag for the RV. And, well, I had my ex-wife move all of the items out of the RV, which was in that email that he had seen items in the RV and it was not appropriate to store items in it. I just would like to request at this time, if it's possible, if you give me a little more time to handle these 2 items in the photographs that he found today, which are some more debris that's under the RV and in the corner, then I can take care of that.
The board have any questions for Mr. Wagner?
I have a question for him. Sir, how long has that RV been sitting there?
3 years, and last time I ran it was about a year ago.
Okay, when you say you ran it, you turned on the motor, did you drive it around the neighborhood or make any movement with the vehicle?
Yeah, at
What
that
did you-
time I did, it was about a year ago.
Okay.
It needs a good wash, and I did say I would do that, and I didn't.
Officer Gasson, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Would you like to summarize?
No, I think we're covered it. Thank you.
Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to say, sir?
Just want to apologize to the city. I hadn't been down in quite some time, and my ex-wife is disabled and has some medical issues, and she has some other issues, one of which is kind of a hoarding problem. She brings everything home. And I should have kept better tabs on it, and I obviously will in the future because I've heard what you've said about what's going to happen next. So I'm sure I can take care of this, and actually this weekend I want to do it as quickly as possible. Not worry about it. And I'll monitor the situation to make sure she's not bringing home chickens.
Okay. That was a nice looking
They're
chicken in
legal,
there.
just can't have rooster.
Yeah, I know. She knows now that she has to have a license to show somebody that there's something somewhere, like a coop or something.
I have a question. Does the fact that he cleans the outside and has a license satisfy?
Well, under the particular part of the ordinance was unused, so it just needs to be used. And then it would satisfy the violation of, for 852, for the definition of debris. It would no longer be debris then if it's used machinery.
In other words, move?
Yeah, if it was moved, if he drives it, if it doesn't grow mold on it, and, presents an appearance that it's not debris, that would satisfy it. And you would have to have current tags in order to do that as well, but that's a side effect.
I did send the current tag in and the registration.
Yeah.
And the email it's in here too.
Yeah, that part's not an issue. We don't have any issue with the registration aspect of it.
Okay.
How much time do you need to finish the cleanup?
Actually not long. I mean, the two pictures that are included in the package, it's just the stuff under the RV, and there's some, I don't know where the other stuff came. And when I called and spoke to, I think, Beth yesterday afternoon, because I thought I was going to be in compliance, he said I'm also not allowed to have my trash cans, or she's not allowed to have trash cans out front.
Okay, the public portion of this case is now closed, and the board will entertain a motion.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Officer Gasson, do you have a recommendation for time frame, compliance or a daily fine?
Do you have an idea of how long it's going to take you to take care of this?
I have every intention on coming down this weekend, but give me 2 weekends just in case something comes up. 15
2 weeks,
days.
$50 a day.
I move the respondent shall have until April 15th, tax day, to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8, where the hell am I? Code sections, and they're not on that. Code sections 8-40 and 8-52, or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day the respondent shall remain in violation of said code sections.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Okay, sir, you have until April 15th to come into compliance. And, or after that, you'll have to suffer a $50 a day fine.
25.
Oh, he said 25? I'm
Yes.
sorry. And an order of this will be issued within 10 days and mailed to you.
Alrighty.
All right, sir.
Just one more quick question. I know you were discussing the definition of
We can do
debris
that
and
after.
whether the RV is debris. Are we set that it is or isn't here, or do I have to remove the RV is the question? Like,
Okay, you need to talk to the
it is
officer.
operable,
We'll talk
and
to you
I can-
afterwards and
If you want me
explain.
to move it, I could, but I'd probably need more than 15 days. to do
Well,
that.
we can talk afterwards, and I can explain all that to you, how to come into compliance with it.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Who's next?
going out of order one more time. Number 13, 215 West Lemon Street.
All right, this is a repeat violator and violation from 1/30/2018 to 2/12/2018 for 13 days. Case number is 18-800000053 at 215 West Lemon Street. Harriet Kladakis.
Hello, I'm Anna Kladakis. I'm power of attorney for my mom and Chrissy Kladakis.
Harriet
I'm the
Kladakis.
repeat violator, like you call me.
Stop.
No, I'm not gonna stop. I'm not even
Hi.
starting.
I'll talk.
Okay, do you have any objections to the city documents and photos being put into evidence?
I guess what we're looking at here on the 215 West Lemon Street is we're discussing the two vehicles, correct? And my dad's truck.
Yeah, the two El Caminos in the truck.
Okay. Can I talk?
Well, right now, I just need to know if the photos that they're going to be, and documents they're going to be showing us,
Okay.
if you allow them to be put into evidence? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll do that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And Madam Chairman, I have one question. She advises she's power of attorney. Does she have any proof of such?
She can testify.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried about
I
that.
can email that
Yeah,
to you if
yeah,
you need that.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was it
Yeah.
was okay to do that. Are you ready, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. Gaines.
Okay. This is our case number 18-800000053. The property address is 215 West Lemon Street. I'm Officer Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, been so employed since 2016. Exhibit number 1 are all of my photographs to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices to include the notice of violation and the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs to include my case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector database. All notice violations and notice of hearings are sent via certified mail, return receipt requested, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, I believe you've already accepted these, but please do so for the record. On January 30th of 2018, I conducted my initial inspection, which was called in by 2 different complainants. There were 3 vehicles on the property which are either unregistered, inoperable, or a combination of both. At the time, there was a Nissan pickup truck parked to the west side of the house with expired Florida tag J. John 743KZ. It expired in 2016, I believe it was. Vehicle number 2 was a tan El Camino, had the tailgate down, the tags were not visible, and the hood was partially open. Vehicle number 3 was another tan El Camino parked next to it, also with the tailgate down. The tags were not visible, and there was grass growing up around underneath of it. There was also a utility trailer being used for storage on the property, but that was part of a different case. And at that point in time, referencing back to case number 16-800000060, where Harriet Kladakis and the address at 215 West Lemon Street was established by this board as a repeat violator for section 40.00, which is abandoned inoperable vehicles. On February 5th of 2018, the notice of hearing for a repeat violator was mailed via certified mail and first-class mail. On February 15th, I conducted a reinspection and found that the vehicles were in compliance. They had contacted us on the 12th, but I wasn't able to go out there for 3 more days, so their compliance date was the 12th based on their phone call. So February 12th was when they did come into compliance, as you initially stated, Madam Chairman. And on February 24th, I posted the property, and the affidavit of posting was signed. We did get a notice of hearing for the repeat violator. It was returned to the office unclaimed. We have had contact with the well, property owners, representatives, Anna and/or Chrissy Kladakis. So before the board right now is a violation of the repeat violation for 40.00, which are parking or storage of abandoned vehicles, the Nissan, the Tan El Camino, and the second El Camino. And as I stated, they all became in compliance on February 12th for a total of 13 days. And that's what's before the board now.
Board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Do you have any questions for Officer Gasson?
Yeah, can I just point out, my father passed away and,
Question.
oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any questions.
Ma'am,
Chrissy does.
I do. I
Sorry.
just have one question. Officer Gaston, how do you know that these vehicles are inoperable? They are operable.
They're operable.
Okay.
I'm just,
I can read you the definition if you want, but City Ordinance 40.00 states that the definition of an abandoned vehicle, which is the ordinance you're cited under, also includes expired tags. So you have two factors there. As it's stated in the notice, there's two things that need to be done. They need to be both operable, drivable, runs and drives, and have current registration. So the Nissan pickup truck, I checked it. It was expired in 2016, so it met the conditions of abandoned vehicle by definition. The two El Caminos conveniently had the tailgate down covering up their license plates, so I'm unable to determine that aspect, but the fact that there's grass growing up underneath of them and the hood's open, I can make an assumption. We could take those two vehicles completely off the board, and we still have a violation with the pickup truck expired in 2016. So nobody's given us any evidence that the two El Caminos have current registration. They're now gone, so they're in compliance. Nobody's presented me with any evidence that they drove. Nobody called me out to the side to say, here's the tags, let me start it up and drive it around the block. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the issue with the two El Caminos. Is that what you're contending? Oh, sorry, we're going ahead. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
You can ask them.
may I ask my question?
yes.
Let's go back to 40.00 car covers. Operable vehicles with a car cover.
It's nowhere in the ordinance.
It is.
It's an enclosed structure, a completely enclosed structure.
I received an email today after I asked Beth at Code regarding a car cover for a collectible vehicle. If the vehicle is operable, you can cover the vehicle.
When there's no city ordinance about a covering on a vehicle. It says in 40.00, a completely enclosed structure. Now, what the definition is, and I actually have the email that she sent you. She says, I have to correct my error that's a different email. She says, many conversations with you. That was about boats being registered.
Understand, I just want to make sure it's clear because it's very black and white on here about car covers.
In 40.00?
Here it says, yes, here it states, car covers are not an acceptable alternative.
That's
Okay?
correct.
But there is. I got the email today. I can read it to you if I get my phone.
I go by what's posted in municode.com.
It's a city, it is from the city. It's an ordinance from the city.
What ordinance number is it?
Beth is behind you if she can pull that, or I can read it from my email.
Well, I'm looking at 40.00.
Operable vehicle, it says it, and it's I asked, it's a
Stop the
collector's
argument
car,
back
you
and
can
forth.
get
This
it covered.
question, it's not argument time.
Anna, this is only a question. We
That
can't
is
go
the
back and
question,
forth like
that
this.
is my question, though.
40.00 states nothing about a car cover.
Okay,
It
that's your
says
answer?
here that car covers are not an acceptable alternative, okay?
Okay. Which is what 40.00 says. Car covers are not an acceptable alternative. That would be correct.
But it's slated, when I asked her about car covers, that if they are operable, there is not a specific ordinance related to car covers. However, if the inspector is aware of a violation, then it is covered, then that will not bring the violation into compliance. Again, going back to, it's operable. If you come to the house, I can drive it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so we can leave it at that.
You have your
It just
chance
needs to be
do
defined a little better.
your case, Anna.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
as soon as you're through. Any other questions?
Okay, that was the car cover thing. I guess I'll pursue that later.
Ms. Archer, I just want to clarify why my sister's bringing this up. The first, when Officer Gaston first became the code enforcement officer, we had it covered. And he told us we could not have a cover, so we uncovered it. And then so that's where the car cover.
Okay.
It's registered.
If you're through with the questions, you can go ahead and present your case.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that was it with the question for now.
Y'all can go ahead and present your case now if you'd like to.
I'm presenting now, okay, sorry. My father passed away in 2015, and that truck that you're looking at is my dad's.
Which one? The one you have.
Hang on, the one on the first page with the tag, the truck in question that has the material in the back. So when he passed away, we needed a little time. There was a lot of cleanup and moving around. He was also a car collector. The El Caminos that you see are collector cars. The reason that they were there at the time is because we were refurbishing them. When the Caminos left, we had them repainted, and then we brought back. We had a mechanic working on them. After Gasson came back, wrote us again, I have it back at the shop and warehouse. We are refurbishing them, and I am selling them. As for my dad's truck, I have tagged and titled and put the insurance on it. My brother uses it occasionally to drive it. We own a business. We do property maintenance. The items in the trailer are part of that, and we have 2 trucks, and that is used for our maintenance man and my brother. Like I said, when I covered the truck, was only to have it covered while one truck was being utilized and the other is not. My mom has a hard time selling it because, again, it's my father.
But right now, it is operable, and it's tagged and insured.
All the cars are.
And the El Caminos are gone. So we have complied with everything. I think at the time, when my father passed away, we kind of adopted other properties that we had to take care of, and I believe we came in front. So it's been a long process for us. You know, we've done I think we're later on the agenda again. We've been doing a lot. We're not one of those families that aren't trying to comply.
As for the shed, that was from Hurricane Irma, and
Hold on a
that has-
second, hold on a second. You're not going to argue both cases at the same
Oh,
time.
no, this is on here.
That's not part of this.
Oh,
not
that's
part of this case.
one. I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You guys are in
Okay.
compliance on that. That case is
Okay.
closed.
All we're here is the 3 cars.
Oh, the 3 cars.
Mhm.
Okay, yes.
And
Those-
you're in compliance on those. We don't argue that.
Okay, my thing is the fact that we'll discuss it later, but we are using the vehicles. Okay, the El Caminos were classic. My brother even had them tagged El Mino, and the fact is they gave us more trouble than they were worth. So he has a truck now. He uses my dad's truck, and we're in compliance. I think that the fact of calling my mom a repeat offender, I think violator, is something that take offense to that, because I'm that's all I have.
Can I close now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Did you move the
I don't
microphone?
understand why.
Put the microphone in front of you so we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna be nice. Stop. My name is Harriet Aginklodakis. And I get offended by the term repeated offender when the code enforcer was told the first time. I show him pictures, and I have him here. I have here pictures of worse situations than before. Look at
Madam Chairman, I would object to this. It
Hold on,
has
hold on,
nothing to do
no,
with the
I'm
case
not done.
relevant.
Let me interrupt.
This is before you
Hold on.
come to my house. It's got.
What are you showing things from
Let me
someone else?
explain why,
We can't see these,
Miss Archer,
so-
let me explain why.
Tell me why I didn't want to send them in. Because he wants the address so he can go file. No, his job.
We need to
is
stop this.
Stop one second. But stop. So Miss Archer and board, the reason she's bringing this up, when we made our several visits to the code offices in order to comply, they made it very clear that if Officer Gasson has a fine and is at your property and he finds you in violation, if he drives by and let's say your neighbor or something in the surroundings on his route, let's say next door, behind you, diagonal, whatever, he is to write them up as well. There's no need for a person to call in and report them as a as a violator. So what these pictures are is these pictures right here are within a 1-block radius of my mother's home that he never submitted.
And I'm not going to.
And again, I would object to relevance to this case.
I am bringing that up because it was brought to our attention when we came to find out, how do we comply?
We're here for your case. We're not
Okay.
here for the
I'm-
neighbors. and so
Okay,
I
thank you.
can't,
That was
know,
why she was
yeah.
bringing those up.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Can I bring,
First came, excuse me, when I came the first time, I was told that I have to comply. And I came here and I gave y'all the pictures of the mess that is coming to my house 2 blocks away.
Again, my objection, again,
can
would
I
stand.
bring,
Officer Gasson, one moment, please.
can I
Officer
bring this
Gasson,
up for
may I
pub,
ask a
during
question,
public
Officer
comments? Is that
So
when I bring this up?
Right now, you've got an objection on the floor. The objection is relevance, and so you need to act upon the motion or his objection. If you sustain it, they need to stop talking about the irrelevant stuff that they're talking about.
Which I did
Otherwise, you can
before.
overrule.
Yeah.
So are you going to sustain the objection then?
No, you
Yeah.
can't.
Okay, so
saying.
no more talk about any other cases other than this one.
Correct. Can
Yeah,
I bring
okay.
this up, though, during the open comments at the end, correct?
You'll
was
have an
how they-
opportunity to speak to the board about
end.
cases other than yours at the end of the meeting
Yes,
if you'd
okay.
like.
And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
that time I'll provide the information.
Okay.
Hired an attorney.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's very sensitive.
And I
Okay.
just found
How you
out
through,
that
Anna?
you've been sued before.
Put away.
You're gonna have another.
Do you have anything else? to say?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
I-
To anyone?
Nothing.
To,
They were in violation because they were not tagged at that, during that little time period, the 13 days?
Or, like I said, I couldn't see the tags on the El Caminos. We've had no discussion whether or not, one of my questions was going to be, were they registered? And do they have that registration? They were moved when they called on the 12th and asked me to do the reinspection. I went out on the 15th. The El Caminos were gone, and the tags were current on the Nissan. So that put them into compliance. What seems to escape is that there's more than one aspect. There's operable and currently registered. So you have to have both those conditions. It's not one or the other. So, and the expired tags brought it under the definition of abandoned vehicle. I couldn't determine the validity of the tags on the 2 El Caminos because the license plate bracket is in the back of the tailgate. So when you lay it down, I can't see it. The El Camino was the case that established this. That was the vehicle that was in violation that established her in the 2016 case. But again, like I said, nobody presented any evidence about it being operable, and nobody presented me anything about that it had current tags at the time. So, you know, that's all I can tell you is those 2 conditions have to be met under this ordinance.
They are tagged and
Officer Gasson,
licensed.
do you have any questions?
I do. So, was in fact
Winery.
the,
Officer Gasson is
Hold on a
asking you
second.
questions
I'm
now.
sorry, I couldn't hear him. What's that? I'm sorry?
Questions now.
when I did the initial inspection, were the tags expired on the Nissan?
On the Nissan truck?
Yes. The
On here
John
as-
743KZ.
Yes,
Were-
they were on that truck.
All right. When
And
did you
that-
get them
it-
renewed?
Just as soon as, just right before, because they expired right at the end of the year. And I had, like I said, I had the truck covered on there. And as
Okay,
of
that's- it
on
was a yes- it was a that
January,
question.
yes, they are tagged and insured.
Are
It's
the El Caminos licensed?
believed.
Are the El
The
Caminos
El
licensed?
Caminos are in a warehouse and I've already sold one.
Okay. Were they licensed at the time?
Yes, and they
had
were
Current
operable.
tags?
And
Do
if
you know what
can
the
look-
tag was? I can check.
Yes, I'll pull those up for you.
All right. That'd be great.
They might be under our corporate
Actually,
name.
it's not, it's a moot point. The Nissan was expired, so I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to summarize, Officer Gasson?
Basically, I mean, as we stated, this was a repeat violator case. Back in 2016, Ms. Kladakis was here. She wasn't fined because she was in compliance. We established the property for the vehicles. I'm completely understanding of the situation that the family's been through, but they were notified that they're not allowed to have vehicles that met those conditions. I got the complaint originally about an unrelated issue on the property, and then I got a complaint about the vehicles from another source. And then I investigated both of those, and the tags were in fact expired. I checked them through DHSMV before we even went down this road. And then, as I stated, they contacted our office and said they were in compliance on the 12th. So for the 13 days, they were out of compliance as a repeat violator.
comment?
No, no, no,
Do you
ma'am.
have anything else you'd like to summarize?
No, okay.
Anna, do you have anything
No,
else?
Miss
you'd like to
Archer, that's,
summarize?
thank you.
That I can come later?
Yes, they.
Ms. Kladakis, you want to speak?
He said,
I wanna say a lot.
No.
At the end is perfect, thank you.
All right.
It's not related to this.
Okay.
But I'd like to make a
This
comment.
public portion of this case is now closed. The board will entertain a motion.
Sorry.
Motion?
Move that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law, that the respondent was in violation of section must be catchy.
4-00.
40.00.
4-.
40.00.
40.00.
Correct.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So, was in violation of 40.00 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from January,
30.
I'm sorry,
30th?
30 to the
February.
12th
February.
of February. And a fine of $25 a day for the 13 days of the fine total of. And
325.
$325, thank you. In addition, I move that the city be rewarded, I think it's, I'm sorry, I Stephen started. $76.50 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
I'll get that from my-
Do I have a second?
Sit down.
Do I have a second?
I'm the power of attorney.
No second?
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Yeah. I think $25 is too low. Well, I'm not going to approve the motion.
What would you recommend?
50 was my number.
What did he
I'll
say?
amend it to $50 a day.
And
My mother's
I
on a
think-
fixed income. I can provide you with
Hold
her
on,
tax
we-
returns.
Talking.
Everything's,
It's up to
oh, I'm
us,
sorry.
And I'm sorry. I agree with the 25, so I don't know.
I
what
would
we're
support
supposed to do.
25.
I would
So what
support
do you- go
25,
ahead.
so what do we do, vote down the amendment?
No, so at this
No,
point,
not
the
the
maker of the motion, do you want to change your motion?
No,
Okay, so the motion will be voted upon as it
It was
is.
seconded, wasn't it?
yes.
Yes, Mrs. Wade seconded.
Which was the 25?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so roll call.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Want me to summarize it? Okay, so wherever Ms. Kladakis went, I'll just explain it to you then. So the Code Enforcement Board has found the property in repeat violation of Code Section 40.00 from January 30th to February 12th of 2018. The board assessed a $25 a day fine. In addition to that, the board awarded $76.50 for prosecution costs for the city. An order will be issued within 10 days, and it will be sent to Mrs. Kladakis at the address listed with the tax collector. Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you to the CEB board. Thank you.
Thank you.
So where are we now?
We are, Captain. We're at 1330 Belcher Drive, number 7.
Okay, everyone got that?
I thought there was people here for it. Or, oh, she's just a neighbor witness. There's nobody representing the property. Sorry.
Okay.
So go ahead with it?
You ready?
Okay. Okay.
This is
Case-
case,
I got a case number 17-8000734 at 1330 Belcher Drive, USA Federal National Meeting Association?
Mortgage
Mortgage
Association.
Association.
Yep. Fannie Mae.
Thank you. Officer Steve Gaston, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. This is case 17-800000734. The property address is 1330 Belcher Drive. As you stated, the USA Federal National Mortgage Association currently owns the property. It recently had gone through a change. It had been privately owned prior to that, and I think it became an estate, or the original owner had became deceased, and then the bank took over. Exhibit number 1 are all of my photographs, including the inspection photographs. Exhibit number 2 are all my notices, to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Administrative docs, to include my case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and officer emails, are exhibit number 3. And my affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign is exhibit number 4. All of my photographs and exhibits, we didn't give any to the violator, so that's a moot point. All my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. And all my notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent via certified mail return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would accept those exhibits into the record for evidence, please.
Yes.
Yes,
Bob.
This case started out December 6th of 2017. The notice of violation was mailed certified in first class. There was a change of ownership. I had a previous case on it that I had started, and I can't remember if it came to the code board or not, if it had gotten that far. But because of the change of ownership, I started a new case, and here we are with this new case. At that time, with the neighbor's permission who lives to the south, I was able to see the rear yard of the property, take some photographs. The pool's green, and as I stated, that's visible from the neighbor's yard to the south. The lawn's overgrown, needs to be mowed, trimmed, and edged. There was some sort of a fluid draining from the house, which was going down the driveway and across the sidewalk into the storm drain. I don't know what it is, and I wasn't going to test what it is, but it's a fluid and it's coming from the house. The trees are not providing 10 feet of clearance above the sidewalk. There's siding missing from the house on the south side. There's other trash and debris on the property and in the gutters. Basically, they're not taking care of the right-of-way. The sidewalk's covered with leaves and debris. And there's vines. The backyard is just loaded with vines that are suffocating the other natural trees that are there. There's also a white Chevy Avalanche, which has expired tags. It's on a jack stand, and it has algae growing on it, or mold, or has green stuff growing on it. I conducted a reinspection on January 13th. Still not in compliance. Basically, nothing's changed with the property. On January 16th, the notice of hearing was mailed certified mail and first class mail. February 24th, we posted the property, and I signed the affidavit for it. Conducted the reinspection on the 7th. There's no change. It's not in compliance. Haven't had any contact with the owner. We've talked to a realty company, and they're going through some issues, I guess, with trying to get the residents out. I don't know what those issues are, and then they can continue work on the house. But again, we haven't had any conversation with the owners per se. So before the board right now is a violation of 133.02, which is the applicability and maintenance of trees, which has to do with the vines killing off the good trees, if you will, in the back. 8-40, which is a duty to maintain private property, which deals with the dilapidated structure, the siding falling off and such, also maintaining that pool in the back. 8-52 has to do with the debris. 40.00 is the inoperable vehicle by nature of the fact has expired tags, which is the white truck. 9-1 of the International Property Maintenance Code, which also deals with the pool. It's in conjunction with 8-40. And they were keeping the trash cans out in front of the house, in front of the garage, and they were still, when I conducted the last inspection, which is a violation of 8-16. So that's what's before the board at this time.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Okay. Would you like to summarize, Officer Gasson?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, we'll close this portion then. Entertain a motion? Oh, there's still. Somebody like to give a motion?
excuse me, Mrs. Archer, Officer Gatson, we have some evidence here that was submitted along with this packet here. It's just for Donald Taylor.
What is it?
Affidavit of compliance. It's it was with this paperwork.
I'll have to check with Beth.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-16, 8-40, 8-52, 133-02, 40.00, 9.1 sections of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Tarpon Springs was enforced in effect, and respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs? Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Officer Gasson, do you have a recommendation, time frame, compliance? or fine?
As I stated, I don't know what was going on with the situation in the House. With the limited communications, I would probably recommend, there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done in that House, probably 30 days, but I would like to, 30 days, and largely because, try to motivate them a little bit, I would go $250 a day, especially because of the pool issue in the back. And as I stated before, not necessarily a fault of their own, but the change of ownership. This case has actually been going on closer to 6 months, but the change of ownership doesn't have any part of that. We've been dealing with it since December under the current owner.
I move that the respondent shall have until April 9th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-16, 8-40, 8-52, 133.02, 40.00, and 9-1, or suffer a fine of $250 a day for each day thereafter, that the respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yeah.
Top of the order.
4,
Number 4.
next case, we're going to number 4. 17, case number 17-8000591 at 500 East Oakwood Street, Good Spirit Music Ministries.
Thank you, ma'am. Case number 17-8000591, 500 East Oakwood, as you stated. It's owned by Good Spirit Music Ministries. I'm Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department, Code Enforcement. Exhibit number 1 are all the photographs to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all my notices, including the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, administrative docs, my case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector database. All my notice of violations and notice of hearings were sent via certified mail return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence.
Yes.
This case started on October 5th of 2017. In reality, it actually started earlier than that, and I'll explain what happened with the situation then. Shortly after the hurricane, this building suffered some pretty significant damage. It already wasn't in very good shape from the prior case. Got a complaint by the neighbor that the roof is coming off. Upon my inspection, you can clearly see sections of the roof are coming off. It's in very poor condition. The foundation is starting to fall apart below it. The doors are, there's issues with basically all 4 sides of this building. And it's basically a hazard. It's not an occupied residence. It's not a residence at all. It was, I think, many years ago, a church. We did confirm 2 factors with it. It is not a historical building, and it's not within the historic preservation area. But it is it's in significantly bad shape and extremely dilapidated. You can see through the photograph, they're pretty demonstrative of how bad this building is. On January 2nd of 2018, the notice of violation was mailed certified and first class. Conducted a reinspection on February 7th. The only addition is more windows were broken. I think they're all now broken. On February 12th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail. February 24th, I posted the property, and the affidavit posting was completed. On March 7th, conducted the final inspection. Still not in compliance. I added a couple of pictures. If you notice the date in the lower right corner, some of them were from the 7th. All it basically shows is there's a couple more windows broken out. We did get the notice of violation returned to us signed, and we did have some contact through an attorney owner. Stated he sold the property, but the deed wasn't completed correctly, so the property owner still shows Magic Ministries as the owner. As you can appreciate, that's our only source. We weren't provided with any other information transferring the ownership, so they're still listed as a property owner record. We checked it again on the 7th before yesterday just to confirm that there wasn't a change in the ownership with the property appraiser, and there was not. And at this point, Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Okay. Finish looking at the picture.
If you want, while you're looking through those, I'm going to pull up the prior case. Basically what happened is I got a report about it. I started to work on it. I had referred it over to the building department. There's been changes within the building department, fell through the cracks. The case was reopened, and that's the reason why it's taken this long. It's been, I think I opened that case at the latter end of 16 or early into 17 and referred it to the building department. And at that point in time, I closed my case because I thought the building department was going to handle it. And like I said, it fell through the cracks somehow. It came back to me, and I decided to go this route and present it to the board under violation for 8-40, which is the duty to maintain property. Some of the definitions that are included in 8-40 include 8-39 and 8-41, which specifically state dilapidated structures unfit for human habitation are in poor condition. And that's where this violation falls under that city ordinance of 8-40.
Sure. Any questions for Officer Gaston? Oh, we'll finish looking at the picture. Any questions? Do you have anything to summarize?
Just briefly, like I stated, 8-40 encompasses a nuisance condition or a section of the code, which is 8-41. One of the subsections of it briefly states that buildings or other structures which are abandoned, boarded up, partially destroyed in such a dilapidated condition that they're unfit for human habitation are kept in an unsanitary condition, that they are a menace to the nearby properties or present a dangerous fire hazard, or left for an unreasonably long period of time in a state of partial construction. It goes on after that, but that's the applicable part of 8-40 that I used. The neighbor that called this in actually because during the hurricane it had been hit by some, not personally, but his structure had been hit by some of the roofing material. That's what prompted his case that we did in October. So that's all I have at this time.
Okay, the public portion of this case is now closed. We will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law at the time of the alleged violation of section 8-40 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Have a second? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson? Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Officer Gaston, do you have a recommendation for a time frame of compliance or daily fine?
I would. There's two parts to this. I'd like basically the goal with this is one of two things. Either they pull a permit to get it remodeled and get an engineering survey, or they demolish the building. Typically demolishing permits and those kind of permits take about 60 days. So I think a reasonable time is 60 days for one of those two things to occur. Either they begin the reconstruction of the building, or the building, they at best at least pull the permits for demolition and start the demolition process within that 60-day time period. Or my recommendation, because this building's not getting better, it's rapidly declining, $250 a day.
I move that the respondent shall have until May 8th to bring the property into compliance with Code Sections 8-40 or suffer a fine of $250 a day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Any discussion? I have one question, if I can ask. Can you get a permit in 60 days?
I should be able to, yeah, especially a demolition permit. And as far as a building permit goes, they can certainly start the application process. They could have started it today and then hire a contractor, and then the revisions and things like that will go through. If they do all that and then they fall through, basically they're a repeat violator, and I bring them back before the board after a period of time if they don't comply with that. But as I stated, those two conditions, I'm not a building person per se, and my feeling is the building should probably come down.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Okay, we're on 14, aren't we?
11?
Oh, 11, yeah. Got that, Officer Gaston?
Yes,
11?
number 11, 641 River Village.
Okay. Case number 18-8000001 at 641 River Village Drive. Progeny Properties and Investments LLC.
Thank you. Case number, I'm Officer Steve Gaston, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. Case number 18-8000001, property address 651 River Village Drive. This is in River Village Mobile Home Park. Prodigy Property and Investments LLC, care of Corey Underwood. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs, including my inspections. All of my notices, to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing, are exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 3 are administrative docs, including a case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All my notices were mailed to the property owner of record, derived by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All my notice violations and notice of hearings are sent, both certified mail return receipt as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all these into the record as evidence.
Yes.
This case started, my initial complaint was on December 30th, and I had to make it an 18 case because of a computer issue. But on December 30th, I conducted it. There was trash, or conducted my initial inspection. There's trash on property. There's wood along the west side of the house. There's a couch out front. At the time, one of the violations where there was numerous cats, that's been taken care of, so the cat issue's off the board. February 2nd of 2018, the notice of violation was mailed via certified mail and first-class mail. January 31st of 2018, I conducted a reinspection. Some of the wood in the trash can, and there's still some trash and debris under the carport and on the east side of the house. At that point, I sent a final notice of violation, which was sent out on the 6th of February via first class and return receipt requested. January 22nd, conducted another reinspection. Some of the wood that's in the was in the trash can. There's still trash and debris under the carport. Basically, no change. And on that date, February 22nd, we mailed out the notice of hearing. On February 24th, the sign was posted and an affidavit of posting was signed. I conducted my final inspection on March 6th. They were still not in compliance, but the interesting thing was there was a new group of debris and trash. So the previous debris and trash apparently got taken care of, and now they've added some new, different debris and trash. So technically, it's still in violation. Have no contact with the owner, and we got none of our mail back, none of our return receipts. So at this point in time, before the board is a violation of 8-22, which is the accumulation of trash. And that's all I have. The other violations that were all in compliance.
Yes. Okay.
I move based,
No, question. Yep.
Done, finish.
Finish looking at the pictures and then question.
Madam Chairman, if I could add one quick thing.
Yes.
Beth just told me that we just talked to the property owner, and he's working on evicting his tenants, but he was aware of the violations, but he's working on trying to evict them. So she just informed me of that. So we have had some contact with the owner.
Okay, thank Are there any questions for Officer Gasson? Officer Gasson, do you have anything to summarize?
I have nothing further.
Okay, so we'll close the public portion of this and we'll entertain a motion.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, Section 8-22 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Officer Gasson, do you have a recommendation for time frame or daily time?
Being fed information. 30 days, and that's primarily because a quick eviction can usually be done in about 21, but we'll give them an extra week. 30 days, $50 a day.
Okay,
Does an eviction make any difference to the property's maintenance?
No, but historically speaking, what happens when you evict somebody, they decide to leave all their stuff out front. So then he's going to need a little bit of time to clean that up. So if he does the eviction, they bail, they dump all their stuff out front, it gives them a little bit of time to clean that up. That good tenants will usually take their stuff. Questionable tenants leave their stuff behind.
I
okay.
move that
We have a motion?
I move that the respondent shall have until April 9th to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 8-22 or suffer a fine of $50 a day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Good.
The owner of the property is an investment company,
That's correct.
and where are they out of?
Let me look at the notices. Let me look at the right paperwork, unless Beth knows it off the top of her head. More than likely, they're not in town. But we'll tell you here in a second. Oh, they are. 1709 Mandalay.
Thank
Which
you.
is a residence, so it's a private person.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Number 14, repeat violator in violation from 2/16 to the present. Case number 18-800000086 at 722 Merlin's Court, James Bauer. Is there anyone here for Merlin's Court? Seeing none, Officer Gasson?
Thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. This is a repeat violator case. The original case was 17-800000244 for a violation of 8-40 and 8-52. This current case is 18-800000086. The property address is 722 Merlin's Court in the Hamlets. The property is owned by James Bauer. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, any administrative docs, the property appraiser and tax collector records. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. And exhibit number 5 is the prosecution affidavit. All my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector Database. All the notice of violations and notice of hearings were sent both certified mail, return receipt requested, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all these into the record as evidence.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
This case started on February 16th based on a citizen complaint about the yard being overgrown. It needs to be mowed, trimmed, and edged. I conducted my inspection and found that the yard was in fact overgrown, needs to be mowed, trimmed, and edged. On February 16th, the repeat violator notice of hearing was mailed certified mail in first class. On February 21st or 24th, posted the property and signed the affidavit. The notice of hearing for the repeat violator green card was returned unsigned, and we've had no contact with the owner. Currently, they're in violation of 8-40, duty to maintain private property, and 8-52. As I stated earlier, the prior case was 17-244 that the board heard around April of 2017. The reason why this case was established is prior to that, we had no less than probably 9 complaints for the same type of problem. That's why I established it for this exact reason. It was, I think, about March, or as I stated, April of 2017, and we revisited this again about 10 months later for the same issue. And they currently are not in compliance. Or he is not.
Occupied
It is an occupied residence, yes.
by this owner.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions for Officer Gasson? Seeing none, would you like to summarize?
I don't have anything to add.
Public portion of this case is now closed. Would you like to entertain a motion, the board?
I'll make a motion. Move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, the respondent was in violation of section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Spring City Code from February 16th from February 16th, 2018, until such time as the property is brought into compliance. A fine of $100 a day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move the city be awarded $76.50 for the costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes?
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, next case, number 15, repeat violator in violation from 2/22 to present. Case number 18-800000099 at 711 South Diston, Charles Burrows.
Thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. This is a repeat violator case, as you stated, from February 22nd, and it's still currently not in compliance. The originating case that prompted it to become or established as a repeat violator is 17-800000486, which was for a violation of 8-40 and 8-52. The current case is 18-800000099. As you stated, the property address 711 South Diston Avenue, property owner Mr. Charles Burrows. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photos, my inspection photos. Exhibit number 2, my notices, including the repeat violator notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs, the case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails received. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All my notices were mailed to the property owner of record, derived from the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors Database. All the notice of violations and notice of hearings were sent via certified mail, as well as first-class mail, return receipt requested. Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all these into the record as evidence.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
This case started on February 22nd, 2018. Received a citizen complaint about the property having 2 old tractors being stored on the residential property, old tires, trash, and debris being kept on the property, up to and including old lawnmowers, tires, other unused equipment. The siding is kind of coming off of the house. A couple of the pictures in the rear porch is collapsed on the back of the house. On February 22nd, the repeat violator notice of hearing was mailed certified mail in first class. On February 24th, the property was posted. We did get the notice of hearing returned signed by the owner, and we have had phone contact with Mr. Burrows in the office. Before the board is a violation or repeat violation of 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, as well as 8-52, which deals with nuisance prohibition, specifically things like debris that we've previously discussed today. As you can see in the photographs, there's a large amount of trash and debris on the property, and the structure is somewhat questionable, especially regarding the siding and the back patio. As of right now, the property is not in compliance, and that's all I have at this time.
Anybody have any questions for Officer Gasson?
This gentleman, Mr. Burrows, live there?
Yes, Mr. Burrows does live at this address.
Runs a business out of that home?
Mr. Burrows has been before this board before. He owns a number of properties in the city.
Can't hear you.
He owns a number of properties in the city. It's a private residence. I don't think Mr. Burrows actually has a business. I think most of that equipment is probably for trying to maintain his properties, and unfortunately, it's starting to escape him a little bit.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anything to summarize? Officer Gasson?
I have no summary, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, can we entertain a motion?
Well, can I ask Officer Gadsden,
Yes.
Gasson, I'm sorry, if you got any suggestions, what, you know him, we don't, got any suggestions?
Mr. Burrows is currently in fine status on one of his properties a couple doors down, a fairly significant amount. We just had 510 triplet, which this board found him at $25 per day. He's still working on getting compliance. He tore that building down. His previous fine was $25 per day. I don't think we can motivate Mr. Burrows. He attempts to, but he's 83 years old, I think. I'm sorry? 89. He usually reminds us of that when we talk to him.
Okay.
And like I stated before, I think he's just simply starting to they're getting ahead of him. And I don't know, $25 a day seems reasonable. I mean, I don't think it's going to make any difference. The fine's not going to motivate him. It's just is what it is, so to speak. But unfortunately, this property is in pretty bad shape also.
Okay. I would
Yeah,
make that
510
motion.
triplet cost him $15,000 to demolish. So.
I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that the respondent was in violation of Section 8-40 and 8-52 of the City of Tarpon Springs Code from February 22nd, 2018, until such property is brought into compliance, and a fine of $25 per day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move the city be awarded $76.50 for the costs that incurred in prosecuting the case.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, affidavits of non-compliance. We'll go take one at a time, right?
Yes.
Okay, case number 17-800000456 at 431 Grand Boulevard, Stavros Stelikas.
I move we accept.
Present?
You looking for a motion?
Is there anyone present for this?
I move we accept I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and the law that the respondent failed to timely comply with board's prior order prescribed and award the city $200 for the costs incurred in prosecuting this case.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs, Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, case number 17-800000538 at 1315 East Boyer Street, Jeffrey Esposito. Make a motion?
Yes, I will. I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and award the city $171 for the costs incurred in prosecuting this case.
I second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Case number 17-800000624 at 311 Hope Street, Anthony and Nicholas Kruskus.
Ready? I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented on the law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed to award the city $232 for costs incurred in prosecuting of this case.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Case number 17-800000748 at 119 East Lime Street, Sam Ivy, K9 Consultants, Inc.
You ready?
Okay.
Move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law that the respondents failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and award the city $206 for costs incurred in prosecuting of this case.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer, Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Now on the affidavits of
Only
compliance.
one of them has a fine associated, so
I
the
just
last
noticed
one,
that. Can
all of
we-
them can be put together.
Can the rest of them be put together?
All of, yeah, except for the wagon wheel one.
Yes. Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to accept the affidavits of compliance?
I
Except for the
move.
last one?
I move to
I so
accept the
move.
affidavits compliant.
We need to go ahead and go through them by case number, so if we could do it like we normally do.
I didn't
So-
see any money on any of them, but
Well, there is on the last one, so we just need to read the case numbers that,
Okay.
in the motion.
I move we accept the affidavits of compliance, case number 16-800000121, case number 16-800000193, case number 17-800000072, case number 17-800000630, case number 15-800000422.
One
I
more.
second.
We get
One
one more in there.
There's two more, but they have fines.
No, not the 363.
25 doesn't. Case 25.
I have two more, they both have fines on them.
You're not looking at the updated agenda, so.
I could very well
So
be.
why don't we just act on those? So the motion was all the way through case number 25, and then we'll just do the other one separately.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Then we get the other two.
Okay. And then 26 is what I'm doing, right?
Okay,
Wait a minute, I've got to read it.
Well, we didn't do,
25.
he didn't read 25 either, so,
I'll do it.
okay.
Accept the affidavit of compliance and award the city $310 for the costs it incurred in presenting the case in case number 17-800000636. In case number 17-800000631, I move we accept the affidavit of compliance and award the city $255 it costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
We have a question here on 25. Is there a prosecution cost?
Yes.
There is not. Okay.
Okay.
No, there is not.
Then you're reading
I have an
some
affidavit
other
for one.
non-updated.
Yeah, we removed that one, so.
So 25 doesn't have a cost.
So do you have a problem with Mr. Kramer removing the prosecution costs from case number ending in 636 and just have your motion otherwise read the
So
same?
they're not going to, the affidavit of prosecution costs for $310 doesn't stand?
Well, I'm just trying to find out if Mr. Kramer is in agreement that his.
I'm in agreement with removing the prosecution costs.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can, all right, so you've got a motion. Did you get a second?
I did.
Okay, we can vote on that now then. We got both of them done.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Hold it.
Madam Chair, before we go ahead and read these next two cases, I want to go ahead and read the rule of procedure that applies for fine reduction cases. This is not for a rehearing on either one of these, even though one purports to try to do that. Your rule, Rule 5, Section 4, reads as follows. After a fine has been imposed by the board and within 60 days after the violation is brought into compliance, a violator may petition for reconsideration of a fine. The petition must be in writing, signed by the violator, and include a copy of the affidavit of compliance executed by the code inspector. The petition must include conclusive evidence showing extreme or undue hardship in the payment of the fine or preventing the violator to come into compliance within a time period established by the board's order. The board secretary shall schedule the petition to be considered, and the board shall make its determination based solely upon the written petition. The board may request information from the code inspector. The board secretary shall notify the violator by regular mail of the determination made by the board. No petition for the reduction of a fine will be considered prior to the board's acceptance of an affidavit of compliance. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced below the costs of the action. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced once a foreclosure action is instituted. Additionally, under no circumstances may the amount of the fine for a repeat violation be reduced. That's the reading of your Rule 5, Section 4, and your rules of procedure that have been in existence for well over 20 years.
Okay, I'm going to read this fine reduction request, case number 17-0-800000072 at 705 South Distant from Manny Kladakis and Harriet Kladakis. Do I ask them to come to the table?
You don't have to, because you're not taking any testimony from anyone.
Okay.
So we just need to make sure everybody's had the opportunity to read the petition for reduction of fine. There is a packet of material along with some photographs, some additional exhibits that are attached to the petition. You are to consider the petition itself and anything that's been attached. It's all considered one document, even though there are lots of things attached to it. And you're to determine whether or not that you're going to grant that request. There's also a response that's in your packet from the city. And that's a 2-page response, and I think it has some photographs attached to it as well. So you can consider that as well.
Okay, I do have a question about the response. Do I ask it now, or do I entertain a motion first?
You ask your question now before you get a motion.
Okay. On the second page, it says a quick claim deed was completed 8/8/2018. Is that a typographical error?
That would have to be, yes. 8/8 of 2017, I believe.
It's 2017, that's your answer?
2017 is the correct, August 8th of 2017.
Any other questions?
Or a motion?
Any have questions or a motion? Every- Ready to entertain a motion?
I move that there be no reduction of fine or prosecution costs.
Do we have a second?
My second.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Don't see the city's response.
If there's no discussion, you can call the roll, Madam Chair.
Okay, roll call.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson? Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes?
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Okay, so on the item number 27 on your agenda, the fine reduction request, Manny Kladakis, Harriet Kladakis, the request for reduction of fine has been denied. Next, you have an additional fine reduction request, case number 28 on your agenda.
Case number 17-800000550 at 1606 Gulf Road, Harris, Kazuras.
You also have in front of you a one-page petition and an affidavit of compliance and a response by the city for you to consider.
I move that the fine not be reduced.
Second.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the.
The motion was to deny the request.
And
I second that.
Second. Any discussion?
Double.
Roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson? Yes. Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs? Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Okay, to summarize that, if anyone's in the audience for this case, item number 28 on the agenda, 1606 Gulf Road, Aris Kazuris, that petition for reduction of fine has been denied. Okay.
Okay, we're down to public comments, right?
We didn't have any minutes, correct?
No, correct, no minutes.
Okay.
Can I get a clarification on that? I think that's the third time we've not had any minutes. Is that a usual procedure? What, should I look for them on the computer?
About the minutes.
Yeah, so we need to find out.
We're just a little behind on our minutes, and you will not find minutes till they're approved by this board. So at this time, they've not been prepared for this board to review and approve, so they will not appear on our website.
Will we see any?
Yes, you'll eventually see them. You may just get 2 months or 3 months at a time. You'd have to consider them at that time. So it's,
Because I'm new, I like to see a summary of what I've done, and I feel very much at a loss.
it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes the city gets 1 or 2 months behind, and Bobby has got a lot on her plate, and she's the one, I think, that is doing these minutes.
Michelle Manousis is doing them, but she does have a lot on her plate also. She's doing all minutes. So,
A lot of meetings.
a lot of meetings and a lot of minutes, so sorry.
Okay, yes, Madam Chair, then that's right. We move to public comments.
If there's anyone who'd like to make a public comment, you cannot speak on any pending case, whether it's been heard today or will be heard in the future.
Okay.
And again, my name is Harriet Padilla.
Okay, I need you to pull that microphone right up in front of you, Mrs.
Sorry.
Kladakis. Thank you.
I've been living in Tarpon Springs since 1960. And I worked for the government in Washington, D.C., in the biggest department. So I'm not a little nobody, and I'm not a trash, like you call me, a double offender. And I'm very offended about that. I have a copy. When I first came the first time, I gave copies of other people with the worst situation that y'all filed against me. You didn't do anything about it. Here, a year later, and it's still the same. And all these pictures that I have is from my house to this city hall. And I don't understand why the code enforcer has to have somebody, a citizen, to call in order to find an offense. Look at this. I'm not going to call anybody on it. Worse than mine. Here are cars without a license plate. Look at this junk and all this in this area. But yet you came and got me for my husband's truck that it was parked there from the day that died because I didn't want anybody to move it.
Ma'am, we need to stick to any case other than yours. We can't hear anything else on your case. So,
It is my case.
yeah, we can't hear that.
I tell you why
We need
it's
to
my case,
We need to
sir.
stop. We can hear the other cases. We'd be happy to hear any presentation you want, but please don't talk about your cases because those cases are not over yet.
But it is this, I hire an attorney. And I'm going to use those pictures every day that goes by, nothing is done.
So-
If you want to find me for every day, well, I'm going to file you for over a year.
We would have, if you want to, you can produce those addresses to Officer Gasson, and then,
He is hired to go out and find them, just like I didn't have to go out. Somebody told me yesterday about a house where he is on the board, on the city commission, and we saw the house and we couldn't believe it. I took pictures
okay.
up on,
The reason we're bringing that up is, like I mentioned before, if there's a code violation on a property, I was told that if the patrolman is out surveilling the property and he notices and recognizes an offense, a violation, a code violation, he is to enter it into the system. We're talking about his daily route from the Tarpon PD to the City Hall to Lemon Street. He has not written one other than ours. And I'll bring up one more thing I want to bring up. On February 22nd, I called a city code violation on February 22nd. I don't have it here in front of me. I'll get it. It is property owned by the city of Tarpon Springs, okay? It has building material, a fallen shed, concrete blocks, you guys call it debris, okay? And an overgrowth of pepper trees. Overgrowth. It was not entered into the system. And it wasn't an oversight. I called again today, and I talked to the chief of police, and I asked, why was this property not entered into the system as a code violation? They have to follow the exact same rules that they set. He had no answer. He's going to investigate it. He did enter it today. Am I correct? I called the code office today. So there's all kinds of rules that obviously we're not following all across the board. When I say that he's not writing down the violations that are here, and I'm telling you, they're 1 block away from the PD, from City Hall, and from my address, and one property belonging to 2 parcels, not 1, 2, owning to the city of Tarpon Springs. And I called today. I drove by. I have a picture. I drove by to see if they complied, and they had not. They had not yet complied, and yet they called it in on February 22nd. I spoke to Ms. Beth. I reported it. I drove by before I came to this meeting to see if that phone call got to the city, and they had complied, and they had not. Not only did my request not get in, they didn't comply, they didn't follow the rules, and it's in the city's property, but yet they get a waiver. Yes, I'm a little upset. The rules are not across the board.
in order to come to my house, you have to go in front of this address. It's a block before you come to my house. Look at the debris. It's been there like that for years. So I'm going to charge the city for every day that it's not done.
Here's the city property. This is the parcel I'm talking about. I'll show it to Mr. Gasson since I turned it in on February 22nd. This is the parcel. Okay? I can give you the part. These are the pepper trees. Okay? 2 parcels. So I'm just saying, I'm going to submit this again. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it seems like it's selective code enforcement. And when we're told that when he's surveilling the area and he notices a violation, he is to write it down. I have a house right here. I'm not kidding you. It is 3 houses away, unmarked cars. 3 houses. He's got to drive right by it. Right by it.
This one, it's another block.
1 block.
I reported it over
A year ago. And it's not entered.
So I'm going to charge the city.
So that's where I'm saying it can't be selective.
You
I mean,
charge me fine? Well,
I wanted to bring this to the Code Enforcement Board because it is an open panel. I'm going to pursue this on another angle on another note as his duty of action of how his employment, how he does his job. That's another story. But I wanted to bring your attention that there's some cracks, and one being this biggest one. And I think I have an angle, and I'm not going to discuss it now, but I think this needs to be brought to the attention of the public, the city, the residents.
I
also would like to make a point about the distant property that, the fence that is not ours, they have not been.
Hold on a second. We're not going to be talking about that anymore. That case is
No, I'm
still
talking
open.
about the neighbors, the neighbor behind where the
Okay.
pepper trees are overgrown, where Officer Gasson stated on the record somewhere in writing that he wasn't aware that those pepper trees are back there because he actually didn't get out of the car. So I'm actually curious to Officer Gasson, is that house in violation? Have they been fined for those pepper trees?
Hold on a second. This is not a question and answer
Right.
period. Don't respond to any of that. You can make your statement and then you can sit down.
Sure, that's fine. I just want to put on the
Okay.
record that the houses right near this property have not had any kind of fine.
Okay. So if you want to give Officer Gasson the addresses,
But sir, we have.
okay.
That's my point. I have.
Okay.
What,
Well,
what
you
is the
haven't- you haven't given
solution?
them
I made an appointment just now to the chief of police. I don't know what else it is. I reported this property on February 22nd. Why was it not put in the computer?
Okay, we're going to.
Several. I have record. I have
You
documents.
don't understand what this code enforcement board has the obligation and duty to do, okay? These issues that you're bringing up have to do with the performance of an employee here at the city.
Correct. I
Okay?
will handle
This
that.
code enforcement board does not address those issues. The code enforcement board is to consider violations that have been presented in case form to them. And so if you have an issue relative to an employee performance or this board, have at it and talk to the city manager, and then.
Thank you.
Then you go to
I-
the city commission about that.
Thank you. I
But-
understand.
But this code enforcement board can't help you.
But you agree with everything.
I think that if you sat through all of these cases, that, okay,
Yes, that's all I've heard.
okay.
You don't hear the people and the residents.
And
Hang
here's
on.
another how good the city is. Every other city bypassed Carver. Carver's in the same mess. They came and have an alley in the back. That instead of paving it, one alley going there, they put sand. So what happens when it rains? The cars that use the driveway, the alley, come into my yard and you see the marks.
We're talking officer vehicles. When they're surveilling the area, it turns into mud.
Yeah.
I just talked to the the gentleman, Tom, down the hall, so I handle that.
They paved another alley, so what happened?
not
Months
enough.
later, they come and they put it,
Right.
and I was like, listen, where does the water come? In my yard. So that's another reason, the city is not, y'all not doing anything, I'm sorry.
My point is I'm going to follow up with the proper office for his employment and his, what his proper protocol is and why it fell through the cracks. And then I'm going to follow up, I'm going to probably follow up with the city manager on this city
Okay.
property.
And to answer your question, the city has to comply with the codes just like every other property owner. There should not be an exception, and this code enforcement board won't give the city an exception. So you've got to understand that you've obviously have found what you consider a violation, and it probably needs to be addressed, but we don't, that's not a case before this code enforcement.
There's no waiver, is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying to you is that the law needs to be applied to everyone the same way.
Thank you, I wanted
Whether
that on the
it's-
record because
whether-
I was
okay.
told that it was the cities and that they did have a waiver.
The city does not have a waiver to its own code.
Thank you. It's okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to hear.
Thank you. Okay, so we're on board and staff comments? Okay.
As a board member, I want to say that everybody on this board is a volunteer. We all live in the city of Tarpon Springs like you do, and we're all volunteers. We don't get paid to do this. We give our time once a month. Today, it's 5 or 6 hours. We're all volunteers. We're here for the same reason you are. We're here to help the city
And
of
I'm
Tarpon Springs.
I'm here as a resident trying to get I want to beautify Tarpon. I'm not here to not beautify it. I'm here.
And Mr. Kramer, I was on the Planning and Zoning Board, so I was a volunteer also, and I tried to do the right thing for the residents. So I understand where you are in your position, but I feel like we've been wronged.
There is another thing I wanted to bring up. There's another, you said you put in, you're a volunteer. There is another CEB board member, and I pulled up his address, and I just want you to know, I've also reported him, and nothing was done. And I have pictures today, as of today, how pepper trees, overgrown home, and debris.
Okay.
So
You can
I will
present it to
bring that up
Officer
as well.
Gasson.
I am. I have a collection of things, but again, I reported these on February 22nd.
Okay,
Stop one second. February 22nd to
we've got to bring it to a
March
close.
8th. Thank you.
Okay, Anna.
Thank you.
very
Thank you,
much.
Mrs. Archer.
Okay, does the board have anything they'd like to speak on? Any comments?
Yeah, I'm going to address the court.
City
Mayor.
staff? Yes, sir.
Major Trill, Harbor Springs Police Department. Everything that's been called in has been entered. The question about the city, some of them don't have numbers to put in. It was before, and I was unaware of it, that they would call the city and say, hey, take care of this. They were still required to take care of it. Now, if there is a number, I've advised him, because it came to my attention, that is to be entered if it has a number or address to enter, so that it will be taken care of, because it needs to be done with equity. So that's taken care of already. If she has a problem with performance, obviously, I'm over top of code enforcement, and she's been advised that she can deal with me on complaints in reference to that. As for the complaints, they are entered, and as we know, the code enforcement issue doesn't get solved the next day, and sometimes it takes time, but it's the same for everybody that she calls in, as it is applicable to her and their property.
Yeah, so just figure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It wasn't entered,
Other-
but okay.
Excuse me. How do you not have?
When we call
If
back-
they have a question, they can contact me.
So, I'm sorry, I just have a question. When I report something, is it by address or parcel number? Because I provided both, just so I know.
If you have any questions, you can come see me at the office.
Oh, I was asking.
We're done.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Anna.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other comments?
Yeah, I think the police department's doing a hell of a job. I like these guys. This board, I've been on this board 10 years, and this board is better because they really are proactive right now. We're much more efficient, and we're handling a lot more cases. It's almost 5 o'clock. We handle a lot more work because of the hard work they're doing.
And we understand that it sometimes takes time to get here, and we appreciate that you try to work with them before they get this far. And I'm hoping that a lot of those you've already started and are working with the people. That's usually what happens.
What's that?
Okay.
Well, my point, I think the
So we
board,
just
is
adjourn the
appointed.
meeting.
And my
I
experience.
think you
Everybody,
forgot the board
happy
is
Easter.
appointed, are
I
they not?
adjourn the meeting at 4:38.
This is no fun. No fun at all.
Okay, let me turn this off real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're off here.
It's very hard on
Mark?
the board when this stuff happens.
Hello?
like this.
We're done, Mark.